let's talk about the IPO market. Kind of a quiet year so far.
It has been. And in fact, the IPO market has been really soft since 2022, the beginning of 2022. The IPO market had a lot of IPOs in 2021. And as it's shown there in the slide on the left, you can see it had almost like a climax top in terms of both the dollars raised in the IPO market and the number of IPOs. There's 397 IPOs in 2021, and that doesn't include the 400 some odd SPACs that also ended up mostly being just terrible investments. And then you can see after 2021, when we had the bear market, how the IPO market got crushed, both in terms of the numbers of IPOs. It went down to 71, the lowest in like 10 to 12 years, and the money raised through IPOs. It came up a little bit in 2023 last year, and it's rising slightly ahead of last year. You can see the slide on the right where I'm showing quarterly numbers. You can see the numbers of IPOs is flattened to slightly rising, both in the number of IPOs and the dollars raised. So it's the frozen market is thawing a little bit, but it's still not great. We're not in like everybody's excited yet mode.
Yeah, you mentioned the specs there, so that's something that worth mentioning. You think? I mean, it hasn't hurt the banks, though, right? I mean, I don't know what percentages of the IPO market, over the banks. There's probably some banks that dabble in there a little bit more. I guess things more interested for the banks on the interest rate and the economic activity. Okay, well, you have less. You think you might get some more liquidity, right? Because people want to get in on
Right.
the new stuff, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Exactly. You would think if there's less IPOs coming out, the better ones will be coming out. But we always look at the measure of how much the stocks trades in dollar volume per day. And normally, and our past research showed that over a long period of time, 28% of IPOs traded over $20 million a day. And we call that the liquidity tell because that also correlates well with the ones who do the best. And lately, since 2022 in January, only 13% of them trade over $20 million a day. So we're getting a lot of the lower quality stocks coming out to the public market. The institutional investors just don't have the appetite to trade the ones that have come out.
Okay. All right. I mean, you wanna see the volume, and that's another thing that you talked about with your life cycle. Maybe we can go with that at the end. The volume spurts. Are the big boys making a commitment? Are the institutions after the initial surge? So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, your top IPOs here. There's an interesting. There, we got some good ones on there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them. Let's talk about them moving forward.
Well, first, these are the only 18 that trade more than $20 million a day and are up more than 20% since they debuted. So there's not a lot of them, obviously. So they're just the ones that have come out. There's very few acting well. It's always hard to do biotechs. I don't really invest in biotech stocks. They're usually a story stock. They usually have no earnings. They have some sales. So I kind of ignore
Mm.
those. There's an interesting one at number 2, but please, no one go out there and buy this one. They have no sales and no earnings, but it's interesting to watch. It's Nano Nuclear. They have portable nuclear power plants that can be moved around on a semi-trailer truck. It's a very interesting concept. It's one of those things where this could grow down the road. You can bring power someplace where they have major outages or start power in places that don't have any, like say Africa or you name it. But it's an interesting company. Don't invest in it because I'm talking about it. But the ones I'm really watching are ARM Holdings. They're at number 4, Kava at number 7, and I'm also watching. Let me get my thing straight. Reddit, which is down there at number 18.
Wow. If you throw out the biotech ones, right, and you throw
Right.
AB, did you ever talk to me about this nano energy, or was there another energy stock?
There was a different one. The
Okay,
one I was talking about, I might have gone public via SPAC a while ago, but
okay, that's not
it's a
it.
dirty word. No, the one I was talking about was EOSE.
Okay. Um, so I'm looking at this list of 18, and then you take out the biotechs, then how many? Out of what? Well, out of how many
Well,
IPOs do you have this?
we were looking at in the last 2.5 years. You're looking at I think it was like 300 IPOs. So there's just not that many doing well. But yeah, I mean, I've other ones on this list here. I'm watching Birkenstock, although it's come back a little bit. And Birkenstock and also Arm Holdings, they're not new companies. Arm Holdings was public before, then it went
Yeah.
private, then it came back. Birkenstock has been around a long time, but I do find it interesting. This Viking Holdings, they're the Viking River Cruise company, and also GigaCloud. They've had some pretty good moves. So those are the ones I'm really paying attention to.
And if you flip this chart upside down, I'm going to go to your next chart. Nope, you don't have it. If you flip this upside down and you said the percentage loss from day one closing price, going
Um,
back the same time and the same volume parameters, how many stocks would you have in it?
That's a great question. I'll have that for you the next time. I'll bet there's probably 50 to 75. It's a lot more.
Okay.
It's,
All right. And then the final slide, and then AB. I'm going to have AB and Dennis ask some questions here. This is what you got your eye on here.
yeah,
Kava Group, restaurant. Talk to me about this charts.
Kava, you can see it had that initial run up. We call that the IPO advanced phase. And then it corrected and undercut the day one low, like 91% of all IPO stocks do. And then it formed this cup base, and then it broke out. We call that breakout above that old IPO advanced phase high, the institutional advanced phase, perfect marking there. And it's going on. It's an institutional advanced phase rise. That's the place you want to buy. It's been rising up until like the last 2 weeks. It's corrected pretty hard below the 50-day moving average in red, but it's holding in there pretty well. We'll see how it does today. ARM Holdings, it really is still in the IPO advanced phase. It had that little small cup base in the beginning a few weeks. It had the monster breakout, the monster correction that should have shaken out everybody, including me, and it did, but I got back in. And then it's had a great run from the 200-day moving average shown there in black. And it's corrected also like other chip stocks in the last 2 weeks, but it's helped. It seems to be right there at the 50-day moving average on yesterday's close, so that's a good sign. I say 50-day, but that's really the 10-week line on the weekly. And then Reddit, it's still in its IPO advanced phase. It too is above its 10-week line. These all have the right kind of chart patterns I'm looking at.
So are you waiting? A pause to build a base. Technically, what are you looking at here? Or you just kind of, said, are you willing to nibble here at the 50 and then, nibble at the 200 if it gets there? How do you look at these technically?
On Reddit, I'm especially waiting for a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a base. I like to see it firm up in terms of price stability. It's pretty volatile right now with its moves. ARM Holdings, I'm actually in it. That one, and also in Kava, I'm also in that one. I bought those earlier, and I have enough cushion that I can hold.
Eric, I'm curious about, I mean, how do the expected rate cuts impact the IPO market? Do you think that will
Mm,
encourage more companies to go public? We recently, heard about the Israeli cybersecurity company Wiz bombed. They turned down Google's
Right.
deal in favor of going IPO. I feel like a couple years ago, you get a $29 billion bid for a company that's 5 years old. You take that. Now they're looking at IPO. I'm trying to think of some other one. I mean, the Skims, which is Kim Kardashian backed apparel company, is eyeing an IPO. I mean, do you think they're waiting for these rate cuts to come?
I do think that's part of it. I think they're waiting for the market to get a little bit past this frothy stage on AI and
Okay.
then move more into like, it's nice to see the IWM moving up. That means more companies, especially the smaller mid caps. And most IPOs are not big caps like ARM. Most of them are smaller. So I think when that starts to free up, I think that'll happen. But the other thing is there aren't many big names out there. Like how many companies can we think of? I mean, you mentioned Kim Kardashian's company, you mentioned Wiz. There aren't too many out there that people are just waiting for. It's not like in the past where, gee, we're really waiting for Facebook. We're really waiting for a CrowdStrike. If you think about how many big name private companies of large capitalization are out there, there's not that many.